Hey everyone, this is the Spoon Dude back with another video. This time we're doing another comparison video. It's been a while since the last one, but this is a comparison I'm going to do a little bit differently than the last two, as I am comparing the official Marvel Legends Spider-Man to two of my customs and then two other official Spider-Man figures. So it's sort of like a big comparison with 5 Spider-Man figures. So here's the new retro Marvel Legends Spider-Man figure. If you want to know sort of my general thoughts on the figure, I did do a separate review that you can check out on my channel. For this video, I thought it would be good to compare him to some of these other Spider-Man figures to see how he stacks up and how, my customs compare to, the official figure and all of that fun stuff. For the first comparison, I wanted to bring in my custom Alex Ross Spider-Man figure. This is obviously my newest Spider-Man custom that you can also check out his own video that I made. I'm pretty happy with this figure, like I said in that video. This is using a Power Rangers figure, and I was trying to sort of get that Alex Ross kind of look of, where Spider-Man is just sort of a guy in a baggy fabric costume, and I think the Power Rangers figure works for that pretty well. Obviously that's different to what Hasbro was doing. This is obviously using a lot of the same kind of Marvel Legends parts they use for other figures, and he does have sort of those bulging muscles and comic book proportions. So in that aspect, they don't really compare, they are just different things. I did want to sort of compare his head sculpts though. Here's the Retrowave Spider-Man's main head. I want to say this is like a John Romita style head. And here is my Alex Ross style Spider-Man head, and I feel like Alex Ross, the way he does Spider-Man's mask, it is sort of based more on the John Romita style, and I feel like comparing that, they look very different. So I don't know how much mine looks like the artwork, but I feel like this one's a little bit off. Not to pat myself on the back too much, but yeah, I personally prefer the way this head looks. Obviously this is the official one, so if you guys think this one looks better, let me know in the comments below. But yeah, there's that comparison right there. Sadly, this head does not fit that nicely onto this body. I mean, the pegs will fit, or the pegs match kind of, but proportion wise, I don't know if that looks any good. I feel like that head is a little bit too small. Other things to compare though is the way the web lines are drawn. Obviously I drew them with a pen, so mine are kind of sloppy and inconsistent, but but yeah, that's something Hasbro does too, I guess. So there's that. Mine has the bigger spider logo based on the Alex Ross art and a different spider logo on the back. I made this figure already knowing that this was coming out soon, so that was one of the reasons I went for this version of the spider logo, so that it would be more unique and wouldn't look too much like this one. As I said, this figure is on a Power Rangers body, so he has that Power Rangers articulation, and he can bend back really far and then crunch forward pretty nicely. And this new Spider-Man has sort of that same articulation, which is really good, and I'm really happy to have an official Spider-Man with this kind of articulation. This figure, it's a custom figure, so I kind of have to be delicate with it, and as much as I sanded this upper joint, there is still a little bit of paint rub if I overdo it, so I'm happy to have this one, which is an official figure, so I can move it around pretty much however much I like, and there isn't too much paint rub, or as much paint rub as on a custom. Yeah, that's him compared to my Alex Ross style Spider-Man. They're very different, based off different artists, of course, so I don't really know how much there is to compare, or, say one's better. I mean, this one's better, but still, whatever. Compared to another custom, here is my McFarlane style Spider-Man, based off, again, Todd McFarlane's Spider-Man. Again, different styles of Spider-Man. This is something I'm very happy about, having, different artist representations of Spider-Man. This one's Alex Ross, Steve Ditko, Todd McFarlane. I want to say this one's Mike Bagley, etc. So I think that's kind of cool. This is a custom on the Pizza Spider-Man figure. This is actually the Pizza Spider-Man that I customized. So comparing the bodies, obviously this one's much bulkier, and I've seen a lot of people praise this new body and kind of dismiss the Pizza Spider-Man body. but I still actually really like the Pizza Spider-Man body. I think the leanness is fitting for the character, depending on the artist, of course. I think this one still looks pretty good. The only problem is he has a bit of a flat kind of flat wheat cake body, so I appreciate that this one's not as flat. So you can kind of see that. And this one has bulging hips. They're bulging a little bit more than they normally would because I did customize him to have better hip articulation than he came with. I will admit though, the Pizza Spider-Man body was probably not the best choice for a McFarlane style Spider-Man, since he did sort of draw him a little bit bulkier than the way this looks. If you're curious, here's a head swap with the McFarlane head on the new figure. That looks really weird. That looks super weird. Obviously my customs paint is obviously darker than this one as well. So there's that. I'm still pretty happy with the paint job of this figure. I like the way I did the light blue kind of highlights on the black sections, even if some of it is a little bit sloppy. So yeah, there's that comparison. Alright, so here is the Fearsome Foes Spider-Man next to the Retro Spider-Man. And this is a favorite figure of mine. I got this guy this year. My previous one I customized. But here are these two Spider-Man, and again, there's another kind of leaner style Spider-Man compared to the bulkier one. This one's probably too lean, too skinny, especially compared to other Marvel Legends figures, especially modern ones. Like here's Mary Jane, who has bigger thighs than this Spider-Man. So, yeah, he is definitely on the skinny side. I still really like the way he looks though. Mainly, you know, all the sculpted detail. Love the sculpted webs. I prefer the sculpted webs over just painted ones. So like the details, like the wrinkles on his costume. Overall, I guess this one definitely has better proportions and holds up to modern kind of standards better than this figure that's probably like over a decade old. So not much of a comparison there. They are very different figures, kind of doing different things, but yeah, there's that figure. Right, so here is the figure compared to the MAFEX. Is he better than MAFEX? No. Is he a good enough figure at its price point that you should be happy to have him if you don't have the MAFEX? Yeah. This MAFEX I think is the best Spider-Man figure I ever made. I really love it. I love the posability. I love the sculpt. He has everything I want. Most of the stuff I want from a Spider-Man figure. He has the toe joints. He has nice paint detail. He has sculpted webbing. And obviously fantastic articulation. He has great accessories, etc, etc, etc. That make me like this figure a lot. I feel like overall this figure is definitely better. To me, the only thing that this figure has over the MAFEX is the price point. This is like a $20, $25 figure. This is like $80 to $100. So, like I was saying, if this is the figure you buy and you don't get this one, you're going to be happy with this one. This is pretty good. However, if you're a big Spider-Man fan like me, you're probably going to want the best, and this is the best. Another thing to consider too is the artist thing. Like I was, comparing with this figure, I had an Alex Ross Spider-Man, McFarlane Spider-Man. There are different artist iterations of Spider-Man, and depending on what you prefer, you might like one figure more than the other. So if you're a big fan of sort of the 90s, slightly more contemporary style Spider-Man with the bigger eyes, you're going to want this figure because he has those Mark Bagley eyes. But if you're a bigger fan of Steve Ditko's original Spider-Man or John Romita's Spider-Man, you want this figure. But just looking at them as figures, I think this one's better. I think the articulation is better. He has the toe joints. And here's a part that I actually want to focus on more. He has a much nicer head articulation. So he can look up, he can look down, he can do crazy kind of tilts on his shoulders, all while it looks really nice. It doesn't look perfect. There can be a little bit of a gap if you push it at at the most it can. However, that's a small gap. That's pretty good. So it's a really nice, nicely kind of engineered joint. You can see it's a double ball peg, and it is kind of crooked right there. And that allows that peg to sort of go past the neck a little bit more so that he can look up a crazy amount. And then he also has a bottom joint at the neck that adds even more articulation. The articulation on this MAFEX is just more refined than the Hasbro one. Like I showed in my review of this figure, he has a really ugly neck joint that, to me, like this, does not compare to this. This one looks like a guy looking up. This one looks like Gwen Stacy. This one to me looks like a person, you know, looking up. This guy looks like Henry Cavill's Superman got to him. This one looks like nearly headless Nick.
Nearly headless? How can you be nearly headless?
Like this.
I definitely prefer this kind of articulation. But like I said, they are different artists, so to me, as a big Spider-Man fan, I like both artists and I like both figures. So I didn't have to choose. I got both figures. So yeah, that's the comparison video of those comic Spider-Mans. I didn't want to bring in any movie Spider-Man or Ultimate or Spectacular or anything like that because there's no point. I just wanted to compare the comic figures. So that's the video. Hope you liked it. Which Spider-Man figure is the best to you? It doesn't have to just be from this video. It can just be from your own collection. Do you have the new retro Spider-Man? Do you like it? How does it compare to the other Spider-Man figures you own? Comment below. Let me know. And as always, like the video, subscribe. Hope to see you in my next video. Thanks for watching. This one looks like Gwen Stacy.